the same routine every day, several times a day, in the grim gray yard of a building on Baxter Street in New York. The vans pull up under the careful surveillance of Department of Correction officers. And those arrested during the preceding hours throughout the vast city are led into the detention cells. For all America wants to know, here is Theodore Granick.
The man who just stepped into the confines of a New York City prison was arrested a few hours ago on a charge of felonious assault. His name is Gregg, Pete Gregg. Under our American system, Pete Gregg is considered innocent until he is proven guilty or innocent in the trial that awaits him perhaps a month or two away. We shall go inside this prison, side by side with Pete Gregg. And then throughout the country, you will be with us as we take a hard look at a system, a cruel choice, which too often jails the innocent man who is poor and lets the professional criminal go free. That system is bail. And the choice is this: bail or jail. Must it be bail or jail? That's what all America wants to know.
All America wants to know. A monthly documentary report on the great issues and events facing the American people. For the man charged with a crime in America today, and the number is well over 1 million a year, the immediate question is bail or jail. In this era of crowded court calendars, it may be weeks or even months before his case is tried. How then can the accused avoid languishing in detention cells until he is finally brought before the bar of justice? The answer has been bail, the providing of money or bond to guarantee a man's appearance in court for trial. An answer that has brought the professional bondsman, a private businessman as Al Newman of New York City, into the picture.
Well, in order to get into the bail bond business, I would have to have a clear record. I have to take a written examination given by the superintendent of insurance. And in addition to that, I'd have to furnish a $5,000 surety bond guaranteeing faithful and good performance, and tie up with an insurance company, because as an individual, you're not permitted to operate as a bail bondsman. In addition to that, I must indemnify the insurance company for all bonds written, whether there is collateral or not. I am personally responsible for every penny of bail that I put up. Today I have a private detective who's a former New York City policeman whom I pay a fee to go out and get fugitives to see that they're in court. But in my younger days, I went out myself. In fact, I'll show you right here. I was over here, my legs were cut. And time and again, I climbed floors, walked in and took many a dangerous step to bring a defendant. I used to walk around with the handcuffs, with my life in danger at all times. But what can I do? My money was at stake.
Al Newman's money is at stake in hundreds of cases, ranging from petty larceny to manslaughter and murder. In every issue of the New York Law Journal, the official legal newspaper of New York City, you will see these cases listed. And there is a common aspect to all of them, says associate publisher of the New York Law Journal, Marvin Berger.
From petty larceny, clear up to manslaughter and murder. And every one of these cases, sooner or later, and generally sooner, involves the question of a person charged with crime, either having to stay in jail until his case comes up for trial, or having to put up, at great expense to himself sometimes, bail to ensure that when the state is ready to try him, he will be there and will appear to be tried.
Well, in your opinion, Mr. Berger, does the present bail system work well?
In the sense that it will ensure the appearance of a man charged with crime for trial when the state is ready to try him, I suppose yes. But it's accompanied by a great many problems and handicaps. Among them, for example, to cite only a few, very often the police officer or the jailer who recommends a bail bondsman to the prisoner is getting a rake-off or some sort of commission or tip from the bail bondsman. Now, this is not healthy. In fact, there are times, too, when the bail bondsman recommends a lawyer. And he may recommend the lawyer not because the lawyer is necessarily a well-equipped and well-trained criminal attorney, but because he happens to be a friend of or has some other connection with a bail bondsman. But over and above that is still the basic question: is it fair for a person who may not have the means to produce bail to sit in jail sometimes for months until his case can be tried?
Do you feel that there is any alternative to this system?
There is one alternative. The situation that I've described to you before was pretty much the system that obtained throughout the country until fairly recently, as a result of a work of an organization, a new element comes into the picture. And this organization, whose work I think you'll hear more about later, is the Vera Foundation.
In his chambers at the New York Supreme Court Appellate Division, Justice Bernard Bottin is interviewed by Theodore Granick.
Judge Bottin, your name has been associated with the Manhattan Bail Project, sponsored by the Vera Foundation. What exactly, Judge, is the project? How does it operate?
Well, here's how it came about, just to give you a moment of background. An intelligent philanthropist named Louis Schweitzer was appalled when he got some first-hand knowledge of how many people languish in jail because they're unable to furnish bail. Now, you and I, Ted, were in the district attorney's office together in New York County here, 30 years ago, and conditions had not changed. Magistrates, judges, still fixed bail in the blind. In other words, all they had to go on ordinarily was what the nature of the charge was: grand larceny, forgery, burglary, robbery, and the criminal identification sheet, which showed whether or not the defendant had been convicted of crimes or arrested before. Now this, the fact that so many persons were unable to raise bail, even while presumed to be innocent, shocked Mr. Schweitzer. And he came to me. I encouraged him, and the Vera Foundation Manhattan Bail Project, with funds given by him through his foundation, the Vera Foundation, came into being.
How does it operate, Judge?
Here's how it operates. It started in the felony court of the magistrate's court. That's where the first bail process commences.
My name is Mr. Barron, and I work for an organization called the Vera Foundation. I want to get some information from you from which we'll determine whether or not to recommend that you be released on pretrial parole, that is, without having to pay any bail.
Yeah.
Now, I can't promise you that we'll make a recommendation in your behalf. And even if we do make such a recommendation, it's still up to the judge himself to determine whether or not to release you on pretrial parole or to set bail. Now, knowing this, would you want me to continue with the interview? Okay?
Yeah.
You gonna have a private attorney today?
No. I don't know why I'm in here in the first place. I mean, I just...
Well, Mr. Gregg, let me, before you tell me anything about what happened, let me explain to you that I just want to know information about your background, that is, where you live and where you work. Anything about your case, I don't want to know anything about it, because this is an admission. Anything you tell me is an admission that could be used against you.
If I tell you what happened?
Right. This is something that you tell only to your attorney.
Okay.
And I just want to know anything about your background,
all right,
okay?
All right.
Now, are you arrested by yourself or with somebody else?
Alone.
And how old are you?
33.
This was an experiment, mind you. We procured 8 seniors attending NYU Law School at night. At 8 o'clock every morning, they went down into the detention pen that was attached to this felony court, which persons charged with the more serious crimes were arraigned. They would interview these defendants, and most of them cooperated, and only with their consent, of course, they would have filled out a 4-page questionnaire, which dug deeply into their backgrounds and past, family life, job experience, religious affiliations, any number of questions bearing on how deep their roots in the community were, so that there could be an evaluation of whether or not they could be released without any bail at all, with safety to the community and to the law enforcement processes.
How many times have you been arrested before?
Once?
And were you convicted, or?
Yeah.
What were you arrested for?
Drunken driving?
And do you remember what the disposition of was of the case? Did you get it?
30 days suspended.
You ever on probation or parole?
No.
Now, have you called anyone? Have you notified anyone of the fact that you've been arrested?
No. No.
Would you have any identification papers with you all? Something that would show where you're living now or where you work?
I got a license here.
I see it.
Yeah.
Professional bail bondsmen like Al Newman take strong exception to this procedure, of course. They feel the approach is unrealistic.
I think they got this thing all wrong. In the first place, they're up there, they have their agents investigating people as to their background. And from what I know, and it's more or less positive, they only recommend paroles in cases where fellows have a good background, have never been in any trouble. And we're supposed to help the poor and the one who haven't got these backgrounds. They're the ones that still have to have bail fixed on them. The fellow that has been charged with a minor crime and has never been in trouble and does come from a good family, I strongly urge a man like that should be paroled. But that doesn't help the situation with the poor people.
But it is the conviction of the Vera Foundation that the bondsman is no friend of the poor. And the Manhattan Bail Project comes to grips with the heart of the problem. Herbert Sturs, Vera's director, says,
I really don't know in what way the Manhattan Bail Project could be considered unrealistic. To date, about 2,200 persons have been released on their own word, on their own trust, to come back to court. Up to now, about 19 of these persons have failed to show. When we started, only about 25 to 30% of those persons that we interviewed did we feel could be recommended for release on their own word or honor. Now it's up to 65 to 70%. I'm happy to say that the Manhattan Bail Project seems to have inspired other projects already. The District of Columbia launched a bail project about 2 months ago. Early February, a Des Moines pretrial release program was started. St. Louis, Chicago, and I believe Nassau County also have projects underway. There are about 15 to 20 other cities that I would say are getting close.
Now, is there anyone else that we could speak to? Could speak to your boss.
Yeah.
And you sure this won't hurt you in any way, speaking to him? I mean, would you object to us telling him that you've been arrested?
You have to tell him?
Well, it's not necessary. In other words, if you want us to, we'll speak to your mother first, but if for some reason she isn't home, we have to speak to him.
All right,
Okay?
all right, you can tell.
Because we don't want you to lose your job, you know. If you think, knowing that you've been arrested, we wouldn't say what you're arrested for or anything, just the fact you've been arrested, so be okay.
Tell him. It's all right.
Okay, and your boss's name is Mr. Jenkins?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, then, if you'll just sign this here, it's a little statement at the bottom which says that you agree to allow us to call the people that I've listed, which you've given me, to verify the information you've given. So if you'll sign this, will give us permission to call these people and see if we can help you today.
Okay. Where? Right here on the bottom here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Gregg.
Thank you.
Within minutes, Vera's investigators are checking out the defendant's story.
Gregg case, I just tried to reach his mother, and she's not in. Now, the only other reference he's given us to call is his employer, Mr. Jenkins. Now, I tell you what, I have to go to court to try to hold this case up since the clerk is just about ready to call it. So if you can try to reach his employer, then I'll see what I can do to hold it up.
All right, fine. Do you have Mr. Jenkins' telephone number?
Yeah, I looked it up in the phone book, and it's listed here.
Yes, is this the R.J. Jenkins Company? May I talk to Mr. Jenkins, please? Thank you. Mr. Jenkins, I'm calling from the Vera Foundation in the Criminal Court Building, and I'm calling in regard to Pete Gregg. Well, Mr. Gregg has been arrested, and we're trying to arrange for him to be released today so he might be able to go home on pretrial parole. But in order for us to do this, we have to be able to verify some information, and I'd like to do that with you.
After checking, usually by telephone, a few of the salient answers by calling the fellow's boss if he gave his approval, or his wife, or minister, or rabbi, or priest. Within 1 hour, ordinarily, they'd have a short one-page report ready for the judge. Where the Vera recommendations were followed, over half of those persons who presumably would not be able to furnish bail did not have to languish in jail, and the statistics on that are shattering if you want them, Ted.
Yes, I would like them, Judge.
In New York City alone, last year, over 58,000 persons were held in detention. That means persons presumed to be innocent, awaiting trial, for an average period of over a month, and 13,000 of those persons were adolescents. Now, I think that the Manhattan Bail Project has proven conclusively that most of those persons could have been released with perfect safety.
Judge, what has been the bail experience in other parts of the country?
In Baltimore, 75% of all defendants charged with crime can't raise any bail at all. In St. Louis, it's a little over 75%. And there is a United States federal district in the Midwest where 78% of the persons charged with crime are unable to raise bail.
Judge, why should the average law-abiding citizen be concerned with the problem of bail or jail?
Well, Ted, I don't want to get into the humanitarian aspects. They should be so obvious to everybody. What happens to a man when he spends brooding days in jail? I gave you the New York figures. You know what they add up to? 1,800,000 moldering days in jail was spent last year by defendants awaiting trial. Now, just forgetting what happens to a man, his future job prospects, his incentive to additional further crime, his family, there are also pocketbook aspects. The family goes on relief. The citizens pay for that. The cost, 1,800,000 in one city, days in one city. The cost has been variously estimated from $6 low to a citizens union estimate of $10 to $20 a day for each person in jail. You can rapidly make calculations. Our jails in New York City are presently bursting at the seams. We've hit a new record of over 13,000 inmates held in detention and after sentence. And to erect new bails to cope with this means tens of millions of dollars in capital investments.
Yes, the jails are bursting at the seams, a problem of great concern to New York City Commissioner of Correction Anna Cross, a longtime fighter against bail or jail.
The question of bail is a very important one. I became interested in the problem as a magistrate way back in 1934, and had, as part of my everyday routine, was the question of why we can't allow many people to have their trials heard without their remaining in jail awaiting trial. Because remaining in jail, because you can't get bail, is really being punished before you're even found guilty. And what bothered me as the jailer now is why so many people had to remain in jail for the lengths of time that they did, because they ranged from a few days. Of course, averages don't really tell you the story. The average in some places was 40 days, 30 days, but some men and women remain in jail inordinate times. And as far as I was concerned, that was not just. That was destroying our concept of justice. So I'm very happy that the Reader's Digest is going into looking at this problem and is writing about it.
By the time Pete Gregg has come up before the judge for arraignment and bail determination, the Vera Foundation has verified the information he has provided and is able to recommend release without bail. The recommendation has been accepted by the judge.
Now, Pete, your subway just 2 blocks down the street there. You got that okay?
Yeah. Listen,
Good.
I want to thank you for what you've done for me. I might have stayed up there for a month or something like that, huh?
Possible.
Now, when am I supposed to be back here?
Right, well, here's our card that has our name on it.
Yeah.
And our phone number. So if you have any problems of any kind, you call us.
Yeah.
And on the back is listed the date you're supposed to be back here, which is 3 weeks from today.
All
Also
right.
lists the court you're supposed to be in and the time you're supposed to be there.
Okay.
Now just remember that you have to be here on that date. And if you're not here, you'll be charged with an additional crime.
I'll be here.
Parole jumping,
I'll be here.
which can be serious
Yeah,
than the one
don't
you're
worry.
being charged with now.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay. All right.
So here's the card and
Yeah.
good luck to you.
Thanks very
Okay?
much. Bye.
So long, Pete.
Until now, for all too many accused persons, the bondsman has held the key to the jail in his pocket. He decided who went free, who languished in jail. Now the jail key is being taken away from the bondsman to make equal justice under law not just a phrase inscribed on courthouse buildings, but a meaningful operative reality of the judicial process throughout our land.
Would you care to tell us about the National Bail Conference, Judge?
Yes, I suppose this was something of a showcase experiment for the nation, because Attorney General Kennedy has become very interested in all aspects of the bail problem, so much so that he, some months ago, sent a communication to all of the United States attorneys soliciting their cooperation in not urging bail in cases where it would appear safe not to. And under his leadership, there has been set up for May 27th, May 28th, and May 29th, a national bail conference to which will be invited several hundred delegates from every state in the Union, including judges, prosecutors, defense counsel, probation officers, police officers, and all others intimately connected with the administration of criminal justice.
On a countrywide level, the National Bail Conference is only a first step. For now, the bail reform projects must be taken up and carried on throughout the nation by public agencies and officers whose obligation is to guarantee equal justice under law. Join us again next month for another report on what all America wants to know.